So this is just a short video on the latest episode of The Rings of Power, episode 6. And I personally think this is probably the worst episode out of the lot, just because nothing makes sense in this entire episode. Now, there is quite a bit of bad editing, but just in terms of the story in the episode, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to show you this. So, this scene plays off in the beginning of episode 6, where Adar and his army of orcs finally arrive at the watchtower where the humans were hiding at because they had nowhere else to go. And half of the humans left to join the orcs because they knew they were going to die, and the other half stayed in the watchtower. But for some reason, when the orcs get to the tower, there's no villagers. And we find out that the only person that stayed behind was Arondir for some reason. Now, the orcs are searching through the tower and they can't find anything. For some reason, all the orcs are in the tower, not just a couple of them. So the one orc comes and tells Adar that, listen, there's no one there, we can't find anything. But somehow, Adar knows that the elf is there because he can smell him. Now, I think this is probably the dumbest excuse to explain your story or to explain the plot of your story for what's about to happen. Like, how do you know he's there? Because I can smell him. Like, you're telling me you can smell him even if there's 100 orcs around you? That's how great the elf sense of smell is? You would think that the orcs might actually have the high sense of smell because they could smell man flesh, but no. So Arondir decides he's going to make his move. He pulls back an arrow, aims it, and he fires it at an orc. And I like to check it frame by frame, and then one frame you see the arrow. You can still see the arrow over there. But in the next frame, it's just gone. And then you can see the animation kicks in of the arrow flying towards the orc. And I feel like there's a small delay if you go and watch this scene. But so the orcs see him, they start attacking, he shoots another orc. He lights up one of the arrows, aims it towards the tower, and he shoots. And he hits the rope, and I've never seen rope burn this fast before and snap. Maybe it's just because the building is hundreds of years old, you can blame it on that. So the building is slowly starting, the structure holding the stone of the tower together is slowly starting to come apart. And it seems like all of the structure around has failed. And for some reason, Adar keeps protecting Arondir. So Arondir jumps off, he kicks a heavy stone just like it's nothing. The stone is connected to a chain, the chain pulls a beam to the door, which I thought was kind of cool. And as the stone is pulling the beam is slowly closing the door. Now in the end, there's a small gap where you can actually see through. But for some reason, when the Rondir turns around, there's a huge gap. So I think this scene was edited the wrong way. Maybe when he kicked the stone, they should have shown him shooting an orc, but no. So he shoots an orc, the orc drops, and then the door closes all of a sudden. He turns around, and then we go back to the previous scene where the doors were slowly closing. So the orcs start hammering at the door, trying to get out. We can see Arondir is making a run for it, and he turns around and we see the exact same tower structure falling apart again. We already saw this a couple of minutes ago, but for some reason they wanted to show it again. So we get a funny scene that as the structure is exploding, it shoots one of the pieces, let's say a beam, and it flies and goes straight down and skewers an orc, but it's not actually skewering the orc. You can see that the actor who played the orc just threw his left arm over the beam. You can see his shoulder, and his back. He didn't get skewered by the beam. It's just they played it this way. So the fat orc gets hit by rocks, so he's out, and Adar is just standing there and for some reason holding on to a villager. Now the way it was played is that the villager basically killed him, but yet again they cut away. And we can see that the orcs were still marching up to the tower, and they have quite a lot of bridges to cross. And for some reason, this amount of orcs is only arriving here now, while the small amount inside is dying. So the orcs die because of the rock falls, and yet again, it doesn't seem like the amount of orcs they showed us in episode 5. Like, I'll show you a quick clip of it, of the amount of orcs that we saw marching towards the tower. But we finally find out what happened to the villagers. And there's no explanation. We don't know how they got out of the tower. We don't know. Maybe Arondir gave them a secret passage to follow to get off the mountain that's thousands of feet high and get past the thousands of orcs that were marching towards the tower. But there's no explanation. We are just told that no, they got out somehow. And listen, the orcs are going to come back and the villagers are going to defend from their tiny little village. They don't want to defend from a tower that's high up in the mountains where they have the best defense. No, they want to go back to their valley and fight from the roofs of their houses. But if you did enjoy the video and you did find it interesting, then I urge you to leave a comment down below. I always enjoy reading them. And you can leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you want. It does tell me what you like and do not like. And other than that, have a good one.